With the Raiders moving to Las Vegas over the 2020 offseason, expectations by the fan base for the 2020 season were soaring high. New city, new town, new team. It was time to win, but the team let down the fan base. 2020 turned into a disastrous season for the Raiders, and they don't look to be getting any better anytime soon for the 2021 season. Derek Carr, while he showed flashes of brilliance, was unable to really put the team on his back when the going got tough and wasn't able to persevere them to a playoff berth. Josh Jacobs did look fairly good, but not as good as he did the previous year and seemed to be declining, so to speak. Darren Waller had a monstrous year, but the talent around him wasn't able to help them get to the playoffs either. Henry Ruggs proved to be a great draft choice, but once again, it wasn't enough to make the playoffs. The main reason that all this offensive talent wasn't able to make it to the playoffs was because the Raiders' defense was atrocious. During the first half of the season, the Raiders were one of the hottest teams in the NFL and actually managed to come pretty close to keeping pace with the Chiefs. In fact, they beat them, but only by dropping 40 points. And once that offense wasn't able to drop 40 points every single game, they started to get exposed. And you can expect a lot of that in 2021, as so far the team has done very little to upgrade their defense this offseason. While I hope that they will be a competitive team to make the AFC West interesting, the talent and the team they have built doesn't seem to be ready. Like I said, the defense is a gaping hole in this team. It is absolutely horrible, and when you're playing quarterbacks such as Mahomes or Justin Herbert, you have to have an amazing secondary, something the Raiders don't have. The run game also is very inconsistent. Josh Jacobs some days will have the best game ever, and other days will be averaging under 3 yards per carry and help the team none whatsoever. Derek Carr is one of the more overrated QBs in the NFL. Many people think that he can turn his season around, that he's gonna save the franchise. But even though he's not really all a pocket passer, he doesn't have the mobility that Mahomes has, that Justin Herbert has, and it really limits the potential of this offense. Not that pocket passes are bad. Tom Brady's a very good example of a successful pocket passer, but with how bad the talent around him is, he needs to be one of those quarterbacks that can do stuff on the ground too, but he's just not capable of that. With all this in mind, I expect the Raiders to have a worse record in 2021 than 2020, and I think that they will finish the season 6-10. 6-10, I believe, because they've not made enough moves on defense, and I think the Chargers are going to start clicking next year more than they did this year, and it's going to really hurt the Raiders, because you have to play the Chargers twice a year now, and the Chiefs twice a year, and those are both offenses I don't think they can stop. Plus, if Drew Lock makes a leap in his second full season as a starter, that could also mean that there's 6 games a year now, for sure, that you're playing offenses that this defense simply cannot handle. Now, if before the season starts the Raiders make a huge move to upgrade their secondary, I would have a bit more confidence in this team. But just with how they're built right now, I don't see it happening. In fact, many of their wins last year were from other teams playing bad, such as the Jets blowing that game. So I just don't see them having enough talent to make much happen. So I'm saying 6-10. While the Chargers definitely aren't the greatest team in their division defensively either, much like the Raiders, their defense tends to blow leads, specifically the 21-point third quarter lead blown to the Denver Broncos. The Chargers have some bright spots that could definitely be improved upon heading into the 2021 season that could really help to boost their team over the hump and potentially put them into competition for a wild card spot in the playoffs. Now, when the best thing that happens to your team the entire season is that your QB, Tyrod Taylor, gets their lung punctured so that your new rookie QB can play and save your franchise, because otherwise they were going to be the 7-9 Tyrod special, that's not necessarily a good sign. But it worked out for the LA Chargers, and Justin Herbert proved to be an elite QB and one of the best, potentially, or like a serious MVP contender next year, actually, because his arm talent is incredible and he's making it look easy. The fact that he was a rookie and he was going through progressions, making reads, was very impressive, and it led him to win Rookie of the Year and break almost every record ever set by rookie QBs before. He barely beat out Justin Jefferson, who also had a career year, but he was able to do it, and it has made him the highlight reel man of the LA Chargers. But the real reason he's the highlight man is because he's the only bright spot on this team, aside from a few other places. Keenan Allen is a good receiving target along with Hunter Henry, and Austin Eckler can be a fairly consistent running back, but the Chargers secondary is not that great. Aside from Joey Bosa, there are not too many playmakers on the defensive side of the ball, especially in the secondary. Joey Bosa didn't play While Joey Bosa did play pretty good last year, he wasn't able to carry the entire defense all alone, and it cost the Chargers multiple games. They blew an incredible amount of leads, which could be due to the coaching system, which Anthony Lynn was moved on from, but there's another way to look at the firing of the coach, and now Justin Herbert, in his second year, already is having to learn a new system, which could potentially stunt his growth as a QB. Now, the Chargers were able to get a lot of leads, and if in 2021 they can just hold on to them and not blow all of them, they could be a very successful franchise. But despite all the potential there, I do not see them winning more than 9 games in 2021. And so I see them improving from their 7-9 record to be a 9-7 team in 2021. And potentially getting second in the AFC West, though I think third place is more likely, as I think they will lose the tiebreaker to the Broncos. But there is definitely a lot of potential, and I could be completely wrong. Justin Herbert could have another career year, and if this defense can piece it together, they could be a serious playoff contender and not only threaten the Broncos in this division, but also the Kansas City Chiefs. Many people forget how close the Chargers came to beating the Chiefs in Week 2, as it came down to overtime and 3 consecutive 50-plus yard field goals for the Chiefs to barely edge them out by 3 points in overtime. As they are very serious contenders, but I see them as ending up at 9-7 in the AFC West, which places them at third in the division. The Broncos in 2020 definitely didn't have the year that they had hoped for or expected, but it similarly to the Chargers showed a very, very large amount of potential, and I think that this offense could take a huge leap next year to become one of the best units in the league. Drew Lock, while he was pretty high on his interception count and didn't have the amount of touchdowns necessarily people were looking for, he showed some moments that he could be an elite QB. Specifically on play-action passes in 2020, Drew Lock threw 7 touchdowns and 0 interceptions, which shows how helpful a more well-established run game could be for the Denver Broncos in 2021. Philip Lindsay was, in my opinion, underutilized by the Denver Broncos as they chose to go with Melvin Gordon for most of the year. Though I think Philip Lindsay, even though he may be less consistent than Melvin Gordon, provides more of the playmaker ability that they need for the big runs. Just go back to the game against the Chargers. Philip Lindsay popped off a 55-yard run to spark the Broncos' 21-point come-from-behind victory over the LA Chargers. In that same game, Drew Lock proved to the Denver Broncos fan base and team that he will not give up and he will not go down easy. He was able to rally down from 24-3 to get a 31-30 victory with a touchdown on the last play of the game. Furthermore, Drew Lock and Jerry Jeudy are a very special combination, and Drew Lock and Noah Fant are also a special combination, though Noah Fant was out for most of 2020, or not most, a large portion of it, so they were not able to be together and really further develop their chemistry. Now, a lot of people don't realize, but Drew Lock, in his first year as a starter, actually didn't play that bad when you consider that former Broncos legend Peyton Manning in his rookie year set the NFL single-season record for interceptions. Drew Lock didn't set any records for interception totals, so by my standards, he's doing perfectly fine. He's been able to make plays and show a lot of potential, and I think it's just too early in his career to rule him out or decide to give up on him. Not to mention his swagger and just his love and enjoyment of the game could be an aspect that proves to help him in some tough, tight games. Now, the Broncos' defense also could be a huge factor for why they could finish very good in the AFC West, very high in the AFC West in 2021. This defense was one of the best in the league, and even with the loss of Von Miller, I think that this defense will still be very good. Bradley Chubb proved in 2020 that he can be a serious threat off of the edge, and there are many other players on that defense, including Justin Simmons, that stepped it up and made it to the Pro Bowl and proved that they are seriously good players. Justin Simmons picked off Justin Herbert multiple times, or one time in a game, and that kind of determine the outcome of the game. If that pick hadn't happened, they wouldn't have won the game. So there are not only playmakers on offense on this team like Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler, and Noah Fant, and Drew Lock, and Philip Lindsay, but there's also playmakers on defense like Bradley Chubb and Justin Simmons. And I think that is why I believe that this team is going to go 9-7, just like the Chargers, but they're going to win the tiebreaker with the Chargers either by divisional record. I think they will have a better divisional record than the Chargers. Patrick Mahomes in 2020 led another incredible year, and while he didn't put up 50 touchdowns, he did seriously reduce the number of interceptions thrown and showed off his incredible arm ability in which he was throwing at every possible angle. Travis Kelce also had an incredible year, setting some records at the tight end position, and Tyreek Hill is always a reliable speed deep threat for the Kansas City Chiefs. Clyde Edwards-Helaire proved that he could be a reliable number one back, even if Le'Veon Bell is moved on from. And so this offense is clicking and won't have any problems at the skill positions, though the offensive line has some serious questions, not only due to salary cap, but the poor play during the Super Bowl that ultimately cost the team the Super Bowl. Both of the tackles, even though they were backups, were not really doing their responsibility. Mahomes had half a second tops to throw every single play, And as you can see from some of these highlights, even with his starting tackles, Patrick Mahomes was under a lot of pressure. If he didn't have the ability to make these crazy throws, this would be a more prevalent problem. Luckily, he's able to throw the ball at every possible angle. But imagine how much better Mahomes would be if he actually had time to throw the ball, because maybe his offensive line could get upgraded. That could be something the Chiefs either address in free agency or potentially the draft this season. Now, the defense, while they did play very sticky and effective coverage throughout the 2020 playoff run, in the Super Bowl, they got flagged for over 100 yards, and it ultimately was another key deciding factor in the Chiefs' loss to the Buccaneers in Super Bowl 55. So while the Chiefs' defense does play good in moments, it would be useful to have a key cornerback or something to rely on. Tyrann Mathieu is a good safety that can lead the team, and Chris Jones provides good pass rush, but a good corner could also help to lock up the league's leading receivers. I think the Kansas City Chiefs will go 15-1, losing a divisional game to either the Chargers or Broncos at some point in the season. And with this record of 15-1, the Chiefs will not only win the AFC West, but also the AFC Conference en route to another playoff berth. Patrick Mahomes potentially winning MVP along the way.